Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, respected faculties, the valued students, and esteemed guests who are a part of this particular talk. A warm welcome to another enlightening episode, I would say, at the GIBS IRE Talk series. This is Professor Guru Prasad, and I take a pleasure to host on the topic, which is very interesting, very niche, and very hot burning topic, I would say. So today's topic is innovative principle for designing energy transition, shaping a future that can go really, really well. Well, I just in the introductory remarks, I was talking with Madam Maggie, and we agreed to the fact that this is something really, I mean, the whole continent, the whole globe today is talking about it. People are talking about climate change, sustainability, and, this has become more of a mandate that, every government of the country is initiating it. At times, what really disheartens me or pains me that these days the policies have become more like, I would say, reactive strategies. We are facing the problem and then we are coming up with some solution. Rather, this particular domain demands a proactive strategy. That can also be one of my question during Madam's session. But otherwise, I think we have a long way to go in achieving this. I believe that there is a huge requirement for countries to join hands together and combat all these I would say for what we have treated Mother Nature in the last 25-30 years. I think Mother Nature is now royally giving back to us, but it's all in our hands now to combat that. Well, before I proceed further on the topic, I'm happy to introduce the GIBS. Ma'am, I take pleasure in telling a bit about GIBS. We are one of the premium business school in Bangalore. We run two flagship programs, which is PGDM, which is the master's program, and we also run BBA, which is Bachelor of Business Administration, which is an undergrad program for 3 years. And we have closer to 900 students with us. I would say the biggest strength lies in the kind of rapport and connects that we have built with the stakeholders, I would say, be it students, be it parents, be it corporate entities and government bodies. We have an excellent connect in the last few years, and the journey in the last 10 years has been incredible. And the management at GIBS, I would say, has a big vision in mind, keeping, the changing, I would say, the landscape of the education sector. And we are all set to transform ourselves into a university in few years down the line, and that would turn a dream into reality, I'm sure. And about this IRE talks, I think it's talk of the world, not the town. I would say IRE, innovation, research, and entrepreneurship is what we call as being, I would say, a front runner for every country, whether it's an emerging country like US or Canada, or upcoming countries like the tier 2 countries, including India and many. I think what is running today is the innovation, the research, and entrepreneurship. So I think we are very proud in GIBS to host this IRE talks, and we have location today is not a problem at all. Today I'm here in India and connecting to the resource person who was in Canada. So I think we are making the best use of these platforms today, and we are having the best of the best speakers who can join us and speak on the happening topics. So ladies and gentlemen, today we have a keynote speaker. I take the immense pleasure to introduce Ms. Maggie Hanna. She has a BSc. She's a president at Common Ground Energy Corp and a fellow at Energy Futures Lab in Canada, involved in new technology, intelligence, consulting, and Pathfinder is a system thinker and a futurist. I mean, as I started my introductory remark with this, well, when everyone are talking about the combating the climate change and all that, here is somebody who has done a lot of research and somebody on the ground, working on this most important factor. So it's indeed a pleasure to listen to you. On behalf of all the audience out here, I extend my heartfelt welcome to Ms. Maggie Hanna.
Well, Madam, thank you very much.
Over to you. Equally excited to listen to you, Madam.
Okay. Well, the warmest greetings to all the students and beyond, from Canada to India. I just want to say I've had the blessing of traveling in India 2 times in my life. And I love this diverse country and its peoples and languages. And the first time was, I was newly married, and I spent 2 months traveling India together with my husband. And, we just went where the wind blew us, and it was delightful. It was such a rich experience. The second time I was in country, it was with my teacher, Shahabuddin, to spend time with his dear friend, Swamiji Sundaranand, who lives at the headwaters of the Ganges. And I was there actually when Prime Minister Modi won his first election, the day. And I remember I wrote him an email about just a few days later, suggesting that he put solar panels over top of irrigation canals to A, generate electricity for local use, B, to cool the panels, making them more efficient, and 3, to reduce the water evaporation from the canals. And I got nothing back. But 4 years later, there were solar panels being installed over irrigation canals. And I will never know if anyone even read my email. And I will never know if that suggestion had anything to do with with that happening, but it doesn't really matter because it got done. So for the next 45 minutes, we're going to take a look into the ins and outs of energy transition and what might a low greenhouse gas emission energy future look like? How the heck can we eliminate hydrocarbon burning emissions and still provide all the services that we currently enjoy? And how might we evaluate existing infrastructure with an eye to decarbonizing it? So right up front, I want to say some of this material might be hard to hear. After all, a lot of people's livelihoods depend on what's happening now, and it will depend on how this energy transition shakes out. I would say listen in the moment. Take it in as a possibility without going through all those rebuttals in your mind, because that's when we stop listening. So there's power in entertaining a thought that is counter to what we believe, think, desire, without accepting it. Entertain it. Take it in. So any desirable future always, in my view, starts with a clear vision of how we want it to look. Seneca, who is a Stoic philosopher from ancient Rome, he said, if one does not know the port to which one is sailing, then no wind is favorable. So you got to know where you're going. So I'm going to share my screen now. There we go. You can see that, Professor? Okay.
Yes, it's perfectly visible. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So no question, hydrocarbons are awesome. And for the last 175 years, since the first steam engine powered by coal in 1712, burning coal, oil, and natural gas have provided us with energy that is affordable, reliable, energy dense, easy to transport, and storable for seasons to years. We have built our civilizations around them in the past couple of centuries. And the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals you see on the screen, all 17 of them, actually depend on number 7, which is abundant, affordable, clean energy. To some degree, they all depend on that. So we have designed and built ingenious hydrocarbon infrastructure systems to provide home heating and cooling, water purification and distribution, sewage systems, fueling stations for transport, fuel for agricultural machinery to feed ourselves, and also to power industry, to name a few of their many uses. And in our human lifespans have benefited, and so has our health and quality of life. They've increased because of hydrocarbons. But there are unintended consequences. And We have been pooping the results of that combustion, namely CO2 and to some extent also methane, off into the atmosphere ever since. And now we're being required to do things differently, to redesign our energy systems so that we can get the services currently provided to us by hydrocarbons without the emissions, right? Let's see, next slide. Fossil hydrocarbons are a limited resource. And let me see, can we move this? I don't know if we can. Maybe, I don't know where to put it. There, that's better. So fossil hydrocarbons are a limited resource. So one of the reasons I'm so glad we're here addressing climate change by replacing burning fossil fuels now is so there is oil, gas, and coal reserves left for future generations to use for petrochemicals like plastics and lubricants and adhesives and coatings, etc. I would not be surprised if future generations look back at us and laugh, saying, I can't believe they actually used to burn this valuable stuff. So here are some principles of energy transition. And this is a wordy slide, I know. So you take a screenshot of it if you wish. That's why I put it in a list. There's no such thing as more sustainable. Either we are sustainable or we are not. And there's no such thing as clean energy. Only lowers life cycle greenhouse gas emission or GHG energy. We must maintain energy on demand and do not allow the system as we're transitioning to devolve into energy only as available. We have to electrify everything we can. World electrical grids need to expand by 2 to 3 times to serve the electrified industry, plus electric cars and vehicles, plus electric heat pumps. Virtual power plants will help us with that, and we will talk about them soon. We need to reduce and then stop burning liquid fossil fuels for transportation. That's gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and bunker. We need to capture industrial scale CO2 and do something useful with it. For example, making cheap, super useful graphene family molecules out of it is one good use. Need to convert our hub and spoke type of style of main grids to numerous yet connected local microgrids and mini-grid systems. Actively engage in cross-silo innovation thinking, because we have to recognize the benefits accrued across many areas of endeavors is one of the things that makes new technologies more economic. We have to increase electricity storage of all kinds, short-term, medium-term, long-term technologies, and stop energy waste. Like currently, it runs at about 30%, even in each of our own homes. So we need to change our patterns of personal behavior, making more conscious, thoughtful, and responsible consumers' choices. Next slide. Energy transition is going to be messy. There's no doubt about it. Why? Because there are a whole host of interrelated issues that need solving together. And solutions rarely progress in a straight line. Some of the issues we face are listed here. Global warming of air and oceans, weather weirding and jet stream deviation, biodiversity loss, habitat loss, and very likely the start of the next global mass extinction is probably what we're seeing. Plastics and microplastics in our air, water, soil, and our bodies and the bodies of all our relations, all the animals on the earth. ocean acidification, toxic chemistry in our air, water, soil, and our own bodies. Waste mismanagement, so untreated sewage being dumped into natural water bodies. Municipal organics dumped into landfills, making methane and air pollution. Reconciliation of First Peoples is also critical around the world. Energy insecurity, food insecurity, prosperity insecurity. And as usual, everything is connected to everything else. So how do we achieve our goals by 2050-ish? It isn't going to be in one big jump. There's a distinction here to be made between the goal by 2050 or so and the pathways we need to take to get there. Like, we can't take a step from where we're not. So we will be doing things today that we will not be doing by 2050 just in order to get there. Hopefully without people freezing or frying and starving in the dark, hopefully. The rainbow colored line you see here is the pathway to the goal. Notice it is somewhat bumpy. We need to use resources available today to build out decarbonized infrastructure and systems, which then we can use to build out further. Many environmental activists, for example, don't understand this yet. I watch them focus on the goal and try to implement it directly without understanding the necessity of pathways we need to take to get there. There's no question that we will continue to need to burn fossil fuels in the close to near future, because energy transition can only be accomplished on the backs of hydrocarbons. How does one build and deploy a 50-meter wind turbine in the ocean without hydrocarbons today? 80% of world energy is currently coming from hydrocarbons. So we have some work to do. Also, as consumers, we can't make decarbonized consumer energy choices until we have built out alternative technologies and systems that are both dependable and affordable for us to choose. That said, here is this, next is a cartoon showing what I think is going to happen to hydrocarbon demand between now and 2050-ish. And here we go. So coal is in black, oil is in green, and natural gas is in red. So we're already looking at demand destruction of coal and then oil. I'm really happy about coal going away, because once the ground is opened up, a coal mine is a significant methane emitter forever after, and there is nothing we can do about it. Also, when we burn coal, nasties like particulate matter called PM 2.5, arsenic, mercury, etc., are put into the atmosphere for all of us to breathe. Not a good thing. Thermal coal demand in the world peaked in 2013. Metallurgical coal used to make steel has plateaued, and my guess it will start to decline in about 5 years as it's being replaced by hydrogen. The green line represents oil demand destruction. 70% of every barrel of oil is used for transportation fuels, which are gasoline, diesel, jet, and marine bunker. And those fuels are progressively being replaced by low carbon alternatives, which will cause the demand destruction for oil. And this is a good thing, as oil reserves are finite, and we will be needing them as we go forward for petrochemical purposes, maybe for the next 1,000 years. Natural gas is in red. I think demand will grow in the short term before declining. And my take is that natural gas and biogas, which is made from agricultural waste, it's all the same chemistry, you know, CH4. And I think that methane will be the hydrogen carrier of choice in the future to move hydrogen across the oceans. But also, as other clean technologies are brought to market, natural gas demand stabilizes farther into the future. And that's because I see peaker plants providing backup power for renewable electricity. Biogas from agricultural waste will continue to grow, in my view, and displace more and more of the fossil gas, maybe up to 15% or so in the future. So this is my best guess on how hydrocarbon use will go. It is a prediction of the future. Let's look at some principles on how we predict the future. Well, it's really important to have a cogent, desirable future vision. Why? Because what we focus on expands in the world. We feed it with our thoughts, our words, our deeds, our inspirations, our intuitions, our intentions, our work. All forms of energy we use to feed what we focus on. So having a positive, desirable future vision draws us forward in a good way. And that's not to say that the future vision is fixed. It is not. It must change as our current reality evolves. New technology is invented, new systems are thought of. So let's start with some principles about predicting the future. Number one is, of course, the future is always in flux. Its composition largely depends on the choices we make individually and collectively between now and then. For example, I always assume that humanity is not going to embroil itself and waste resources on World War III, right? If that happens, then all bets are off. And I agree with the celebrated novelist John Steinbeck, who said, all war is a symptom of man's failure as a thinking animal. Probability of a thing happening in the future and the rate of its deployment is based on the trajectories laid down in the past. So predicting the technology future is about being aware of the trajectories of technology development worldwide. I've spent 2 hours every day since 2009 making myself aware of events related to new energy technology developments and watched how they inform current and future technology. Inform future challenges and how they end up enabling each other. Arriving at probabilities of a certain thing happening by a certain time is not a number crunching science by any means. It's more of a felt sense based on an integrated awareness of what has happened in that arena in the past and how fast. So what you are getting from me today is mostly an informed opinion. If you would like a taste of great things happening in this world, feel free to sign up for my daily blog. It's called How the Future Can Go Really, Really Well. And there's over 3,500 articles in the archives there now. That's a great resource for any school. So as we said, there's a difference between the goal we aspire to, and in our case, a desired decarbonized energy future by, say, 2050-ish, and the pathways we need to get there. We have talked about that. Every region in the world has to focus on developing their existing local energy endowments. So in alignment with available capital and creativity. This means that the energy system in every region is going to look somewhat different. We have all the resources needed to get a good start on this now, and those can be shared as economics dictate. And of course, more amazing technologies are under development as we speak. Things like home hydrogen generation and storage systems, food waste being turned into solid biofuel right in your kitchen, metal hydride hydrogen storage with 2 tons that can store 2 tons of hydrogen in a 40-foot sea can, and used to fuel hydrogen fueling stations. Also, as we said, all future decarbonized energy systems will be accomplished on the backs of hydrocarbons to start with, because there is nothing else really. For example, it's hydrocarbons that currently heat pure quartz sand to make polycrystalline silicon for solar panels. In the future, that might be done with hydrogen, but for now, we can consciously use hydrocarbons more wisely and with substantially less emissions. There's some really good technologies coming along that actually grab CO2 out of industrial scale stacks and turn it into graphene. That's coming along nicely. Everything affects everything. Future energy systems thinking always requires cross-silo innovation and economic thinking. What do I mean by that? Well, sometimes, for example, like two great technologies might be currently close to being economic. In the future, they might be very economic as the technology ecosystem requirements evolve, but it's hard to move a startup company forward when one is too far ahead of one's time. In order to make a new technology economic, sometimes we can pair it with a complementary technology so that together they perform a larger service and more valuable service, which is worth more money today. And that makes both technologies more economic and more able to move forward. So some people, yep, engineers are trained this way. They say that efficiency is king, but I disagree. It is important, but it is, but what matters most is that the system is fit for purpose and is affordable. I explain this as robustness versus resilience. This is key on an in an increasingly weather-weird world. And here's the analogy. Reptiles are resilient and mammals are robust. Reptiles are cold-blooded and calorie efficient. I'm just going to move this up here. Yeah. I can't get this out of the way, Professor. Anyway. So reptiles are cold-blooded and calorie efficient. They need 1/10 of the calories compared to mammals. And they can run fast for short distances, but they die in overly cold or hot weather. Mammals, however, are robust. They're warm-blooded. They need 10 times the calories compared to a reptile. They are not efficient, but they can run fast for a really long time, and they can thrive in cold and hot weather. So resilience means that when a shock happens, we suffer, but then we recover quickly, or we don't recover at all, one of those two things. But robustness means that when a shock happens, we don't suffer. The system in place easily handles that shock. My 5 principles for robustness and energy transition are backup, 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 flexibility, and sharing. In a world of more extreme weather wording, we need to build robustness into our systems at many levels of scale, from battery backup in the family dwelling to neighborhood scale, to city scale, to regional scale. I'm moving this over here. There we go. And so how do we begin to assess the possibilities for decarbonizing an existing energy system? Well, here are some ideas. Again, a wordy slide, so take a screenshot if you want. Number 1 is determine what is. What exists and how does it work? Identify the pain points in the existing system. Uncover the wishes of all the people responsible for various parts of the system. They know it better than anybody else. Analyze the resource endowments for for power, fuel generation, and storage in the area that we are considering. What is the policy and regulatory framework locally and regionally, and how does that have to change? And then I would say use chat RMG. This is an invention by a dear friend of mine, Dalibor Kladar. And he's built over 100 microgrids himself and over his career. And basically, it's a way to systematically gather all the energy use information, including, what's critical load, what's non-critical load, time of day uses, to make the design the most effective and fit for purpose and cost effective. So design for what is going to be needed in the future as well as in the present, because assets, they age out in 30 years or 60 years, depending on what they are. So let's design for the number of people we're anticipating, what their draw we think is going to be, any in industry that's moving into the area, all of that stuff we have to design for. And research how much money can be made available in the form of government grants and incentives, trusted investors, local funds, any carbon credits or offsets of value, and then put some signed agreements in place. And only then do you bring in the design team and let them loose. So why the heck would we even bother with all this innovating stuff when we have ready access to hydrocarbons? Why? Climate change is afoot in the world, and largely an unintended consequence of burning hydrocarbons, as we said, and pooping the byproducts into the atmosphere for the last couple of centuries. But why can I say that at all? There are so many independent lines of evidence for this. But let's look at one line of evidence, the Earth's changing CO2 patterns over the last 800,000 years. We humans, well, first of all, the Earth's atmosphere is really thin. It's that pale blue line you see there on this NASA photo. And if the Earth were the size of, say, an egg, the atmosphere itself would be much, much thinner than the eggshell. We humans are changing Earth's climate, which changes our weather patterns, which changes where rain falls and how much and where it doesn't fall, which changes the living conditions to which all ecosystems have become well adapted. And we only live because our relations do. All the animals and plants and microbes, all our relations do. All the living things of this earth. Climate change is not a matter of whether you believe in it or not, right? It's not like the it's a better question is, not do you believe in climate change? A better question is to say, do you understand any of the? So here's a start. One of the many realms of scientific investigation to. Let's get rid of this up here now. This is the NASA graph of atmospheric CO2. The concentrations over the past 800,000 years. Now we can measure this from the air bubbles trapped in Greenland and Antarctic ice cores that go back that far. During that time, we have seen 8 glacial and interglacial periods. These are caused by what we call natural Milankovitch cycles. And Milankovitch cycles describe the way that Earth's orbit around the sun changes over the course of tens of thousands of years. And that changes planetary temperatures, and that's what causes ice ages. These changes have been a major factor controlling periods of glaciation. Now, look at the troughs on this graph. That shows low CO2 in the atmosphere due to ice ages. The peaks show you higher CO2 concentrations during the interglacial periods in between the ice ages, like the one we're in now. The peaks, the ice age, 10,000 years ago. And at the far right of the graph, there's a vertical line. It does not fit the pattern. This is our human-caused emissions. And the only vertical line on the graph. Now notice the white horizontal dash line for a moment. That marks the very highest CO2 peak in the last 800,000 years. And it rings in at about 300 parts per million, or ppm. We blew past that in 1911. The vertical character of our recent line shows a markedly increased rate of change over the usual Milankovitch cycles. So what is Earth's sensitivity to CO2 CO2 concentration? Well, let's look at the bar on the right. I'm going to move this again. Here we are. Starting at the bottom. What would happen if there was zero CO2 in our atmosphere? Well, the average temperature on the planet would be -18 Celsius, and most of the water on Earth would be frozen most of the time. And when we get below about 200 ppm, we are in for an ice age. We estimate stable weather patterns might be achieved around 350 ppm. And we're currently ringing in at 427 ppm and climbing. We caused it, and I think we can fix it. To bring the point home, what has happened in one human lifetime? Excuse me. I was born in 1958 at 315 ppm. We breached the safe limit of 350 ppm in December of 1986, when I was 28. I became a mom in 1995 at 361 ppm. And now I'm a grandmother at 66, and we're at 427 ppm. So this has been geologically instantaneous, actually. One human lifetime. An increase of 112 ppm. Rate matters. Ecosystems cannot adapt nor migrate that fast. Our carbon cycle on Earth is seriously out of balance now. So how are we going to fix that and adapt in the meantime? Well, here are 4 examples of the many, many options well adapted, in my view, to the Indian context. Let's look at 2 kinds of Agra Solar, microgrids and virtual power plants. Let's look at that. First, this is called Agra Solar. It's a combination of using sheep grazing and solar farms. It's a powerful idea whereby we use sheep to graze down the long grasses and weeds on a solar farm. No need to mow it or risk cutting power cables. And it's estimated the sheep will build an extra 2.5 inches of healthy soil during the lifetime of this project of 50 years. That's a lot, 2.5 inches. You put solar panels down, and without the biological content, and the soil will degrade. Here in Alberta, 2 friends of mine have grazed 600 ewes on a 320-hectare solar panel site, and they are starting experiments now with kune pigs on the bottom right photo to be with the sheep as well. That's because this kind of pig doesn't dig, doesn't burrow, and that would be problematic for the for the racking system of the solar panels if they did. So this kind of a system also increases local food security for non-vegetarians, right? Then there's a second type. A second type of agriculture, Agra Solar system. I mean, there's many types. These are just two. But this works really well in hot places like India. And vegetarians can like rejoice. So using a checkerboard arrangement of solar panels, this particular shot is from Kenya. It means that we can grow vegetable crops that are not all otherwise possible in hot, dry areas. Like half the time, the plants get direct sunlight and half the time they get indirect sunlight. This cuts down on midday wilting. So the plants don't have to spend the rest of the day recovering from the wilt. They actually put their energy into growth. And so they grow faster and with about 40% reduced water use as well. These panels are about 3 meters off the ground. So that permits us to drive harvesting and equipment, etc., underneath them. And the system is ideal for growing leafy greens such as lettuce and spinach and kale, arugula, and also herbs as well, basil, cilantro, mint, parsley, etc., right? So I like this idea for India for sure. This is, so even though solar and wind are the cheapest forms of electricity production, there is an intermittency problem, no question. The sun goes down at night and the wind always blows. Electricity production stops, even if we still need to use it. And there are solutions to that. And this site shows you what it looks like for one of those solutions. It's a solar farm with batteries for fast response, short duration electricity storage. And it has hydrogen production and hydrogen storage for longer term, larger amounts of energy storage from seasons to years, actually. And this is an example of what can be done to firm up intermittent cheap power. And here's some labels so you can see what's what. And I'd also want to say there's also medium-term storage, especially heat batteries are very good for medium-term storage. So let's look more closely. Start by building more solar power than the grid in the area can actually use. Put excess power into the batteries first. The batteries can kick in on a second to microsecond basis to support that grid at any time. But they can't store very much power, like just for up to a maximum I've seen of 12 hours worth, depending on the type of battery that you're using. And they only store power for a few days or a week or two. Batteries are good for short-term storage. They also buy you time to heat up the hydrogen electrolyzers. So after the batteries are full, direct the extra power and water into hydrogen electrolyzers. They split water into hydrogen and oxygen. And that's when they're in the forward mode. And we can store that hydrogen on site. I'm not a big fan of liquid hydrogen storage as they have here. There's lots of other ways to do it that, don't use so much energy to keep it so cold. Hydrogen can store larger amounts of energy than batteries, and they can do so for seasons to years, providing long-term energy storage. So when power is needed, we take that same electrolyzer equipment and we run it backwards, which we put hydrogen in, and it makes power for the grid and remakes the water. That water is distilled water, and add a little bit of mineral and you've got drinking water. It's important to make enough hydrogen to get through blackouts and longer, more extreme weather events. that affect reliable power. And when the hydrogen runs out, make sure there's enough natural gas or biogas, ideally, peaker plants to pick up the power slack when needed. As promised earlier, we're going to talk about one of my very favorite future energy systems. This is virtual power plant. And virtual power plant aggregates and supplies home-generated solar source battery power to support the grid when needed. And it works kind of like a co-op basis, this kind of business model it is. So basically, the business model is that the company installs solar panels, a battery, and an electric car charger at your home with no upfront cost, but leases that equipment to you on a affordable 20-year long-term lease basis. Imagine that all your neighbors did that too. Now you own solar panels, your own solar panels power up your home battery, and that battery can instantly be called upon to supply power to the grid when the grid is struggling. Together, you all become a virtual power plant. When the grid is struggling to supply enough power, it pays significantly more money for power. And that, than what we buy power for. So when the power is drawn from all these home batteries and charged with home solar, the co-op makes really good money. And that extra money is shared amongst everybody inside the co-op and put against everybody's power bills. So you pay the rate power that you use, a small monthly equipment lease fee. However, those charges are offset by the co-op making money selling power to the grid at a higher price, and taken together, that's a 30% savings on your power bill compared to before. And that's just minimum. We've done experiments around here and on 2 houses, and we find averaged over the year, it's like 100% of the power bill. I can't promise that. We only 3%. So all for these decarbonized technology systems, we just think could be well adapted to conditions in India. And again, they are solar panels combined with sheep or pigs, solar panel checkerboards combined with vegetable growing, solar farms combined with hydrogen production and storage, and virtual power plants. So what else might the future look like by 2050-ish? Another wordy slide. So take a photo if you want. Here's my wish list. Burning hydrocarbons has become a thing of the past. We have successfully removed enough CO2 from our atmosphere to get back down to 350 ppm. The oceans have cooled down and the plastics have been removed, and we're no longer putting plastics in. We build much of our cities and infrastructure out of carbon. World population is stabilized at just under 10 billion. 50% of land and ocean has been preserved and restored habitat for all our relations by 2050, because we only live because they do. MAS, M-A-S, or mobility as a service, runs in urban areas. This means autonomous electric shared vehicle fleets that you can call up on your phone and arrive in 3 minutes and take you door to door, which solves the, first mile, last mile problem. And therefore, we don't need 60% of the roads, and they can be reclaimed for other purposes. Urban forests throughout cities are used for shade and beauty. And Agra Solar and city gardens for more food security. Circular economy is thriving. Landfills are a thing of the past. No more one-use plastics, and great plastic recycling and reuse systems. Waste to power, waste to biochar, Waste to biogas is the norm. Virtual power plants and distribution connected mini grids and microgrids. Capitalism has been fine-tuned to close the rich gap with everybody else and re-expand the middle class worldwide. And social values shift towards having an elegant life, which to me means purposeful work, plus beauty, plus simplicity, plus an excess of time. Where so many of us are time poor. And all kids' education includes exploring their own unique design and life purpose. So the bottom line is we have to stop treating the planet like we have another one to go to. So re-engineering our world energy systems is vital and doable. And I wonder if any part of these initiatives that might personally light you up from the inside, such that if you worked in that area of endeavor, your work would have deep personal meaning and change the world for the provide a significant paycheck. So this is what my last point here. Last big idea, I guess. The thought I subscribe to is that every single person on this planet is here for a reason, sent by their soul, an intention, a purpose, a mission that is unique to you and that you are perfectly designed for. And as we said before, your life force is a powerful thing. It is the sum of your thoughts, words, deeds, inspirations, feelings, energy, gifts, skills, creativity, inclinations, and your work. And whatever you focus that on expands in this world. We feed it our life force, right? And I believe people deserve to be personally fulfilled in their work. I believe it's not only possible to work in your passion, it's the most productive way to live a life. I believe each person deserves to be excited and enthused about going to work. I believe that work involves entirely too much of our life to be taken up by something we're miserable doing. Maybe for a really short period of time while we build into work of purpose. My favorite definition of life purpose is by Daniel Goodenough, my life purpose teacher. And he says, do the thing you most love in the place you most want to be, with the people you most want to hang out with, and in the way the world needs the most. So if you're lit up from the value and have deep satisfaction with the legacy your life force is feeding, good, then you're on the right track. And if not yet, then maybe this is the opportune moment to take up the practice consciously in your own design, your life purpose, or your mission. That involves journaling on really good questions that reveal your innate nature and propensities to yourself. There's some really good books out there with useful questions. Buy a beautiful journal and have at it. Once you have done this exploratory work of your own design, knowing that you aren't designed this way for no reason, there is a reason that lights your heart up from the inside, then you can distill your purpose to one sentence. And it is truer in your heart than any sentence ever has. And only then does one start for the vehicles or the work that for actually carrying that intention into the world. And that then the work is in alignment with your life's intention. I hope you give this consideration. I'm happy to talk about it more at another time if you wish. As my life mission teacher, Daniel Goodenough, says, the highest possibility for who you can become is found within by actually taking the journey. And I wish that for everybody. This is what I do with my life. So thank you for your kind attention. And I'd like to invite you again to my daily blog designed to help people, especially young people, and especially young people who are afflicted with climate change anxiety, depression, despair, to have real hope based on real things happening today to address climate change, and all her sisters. This Patreon address on the screen will get you there, as will Googling how the future can go really, really well. There are over, as I said, over 3,500 articles in the archives now. And it's an ideal reference for schools, Professor, if you want to have a look. And now you have my contact information for future discussion as desired. Thank you again for your kind attention. Over to you, sir.
Fantastic, ma'am. Yes. Could we stop the screen share so that
yes, we can.
are visible to each of us?
Yes.
That's great. Fantastic. I think, as I said, it was one of the eye-opener session, I would say. What we realize at the end of the day is that we as citizens, have a major responsibility to play in this, right? It's not just about government and, the country, but then the participants, especially the citizens, have a big role to play. Before I take questions from my students, I have my personal question to you, because
yes.
the study of this particular domain reveal that of late, maybe in the last couple of decades, I would say, Antarctica has lost 20 to 30% of its natural ice, right? Because of all these climate changes and everything. So what do you see the impact of Antarctica losing its natural ice to the rest of the world?
The biggest problem I see is ocean circulation. So Antarctica ice melting drives ocean currents.
Right.
Which for example, there's an ocean current that is started in Antarctica, goes up through, this is in the Atlantic Ocean, goes up past the equator, heats up, and then goes past United Kingdom and up past Norway and places. And that current moderates the climate of those places. And without it, the ocean becomes more stagnant, which is not a good thing. We need to keep oxygenating and turning over ocean water, but also climate on land changes. Warm ocean currents bring rain. They bring heat, and without them, things are going to be really difficult in places that depend on them.
I know. I also heard a couple of countries are spending billions of dollars in, reinstalling some artificial ice in Antarctica. I don't know how genuine or might be a solution to the ongoing problems, but that's the efforts on.
Yeah, good luck with that. I don't see that as a scalable thing to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I'm really happy to share you that I have a lot of enthusiastic students, listening to you, and they have
awesome.
listed out.
I can't see any of them. So I don't know how this landed,
So they have listed out some real good questions I would like to take on their behalf to you. Yes, there's one of the students who's asking, how, as a student, can we contribute to the sustainable energy efforts today? So as a student, how can I contribute to it?
Right. So as a student, you are responsible for how you live, to start with, as best as you can, your choices. And also you are responsible for your own purpose. And if something in this talk, like just gets you in the heart, pay close attention to that. Because that's a key, that's a clue to why you are here on the planet and what it is you're here to solve or to expand in this world. So number one is look at your personal choices. Are you throwing away polyester clothing into the dump? Don't be doing that. Buy natural fibers if you can. You be part of the circular economy. Don't buy new stuff. Go to the secondhand store and buy used stuff, right? Be part of that circular economy. These are all choices we can, and it's cheaper for you anyway as a student. You probably, probably watch your pennies, so your rupees. Anyway, that's, you're responsible for your own choices, and you're responsible to your own heart. Pay attention.
Fantastically said. Yeah, I would definitely expect these questions where generally the students are much concerned about the impact it will have in jobs. So here's the students who want to know, how will the energy transition impact jobs and employment across different sectors?
Yeah. Well, those employed in the oil and gas and coal industries are going to need to transition into something else. I think one of the areas that's really going to increase is electrical engineering, and also trades in the electrical field, because we have to build out, we have to double to triple the grid capacity to handle all the things that we're going to be doing with electricity that we're currently doing by burning hydrocarbon. Most of that is transportation. And again, what is your bent? Is your bent towards research? Is it towards startup companies? Is it towards engineering, taking that research and turning it into real things? Is it involved in actually taking those real things and putting them into the world and building them with your hands? Where is your heart? What do you most want to do? You want to feed people. Well, look at some of this Agra Solar stuff that I've talked about. And I mean, I could talk forever about new technologies that are coming along. And it's less concern, I think, about where the job's going to be, and more concern about what is mine to do. Because I promise, when you know what yours is to do, opportunities will abound your way. I promise.
Very true. Very true. Well, you raised this point in your talk, but we would like to listen to this point again. Will there be any reduction in hydrocarbon use, or do you think it's going to increase from where it is right now?
Hydrocarbon use is, I hope, we're still going to need hydrocarbons going in the future for petrochemical purposes. So we're still going to explore for natural gas and oil and coal, but we're not going to be burning it anymore. Hope, in the future, if that's going to, people are going to look at that as a big faux pas, a big problem. So natural gas, oil, and coal industries are going to contract. And that's not where I would go. I mean, it was my job for 30 years to find oil and gas. I was the person that did the science. What did the Earth do 60 years ago and 3 kilometers down? And let's put a well bore here and see if we can find some hydrocarbon. That was my job for 30 years. I was decent at it. But those kind of jobs are going away. So large. And hope that answers your question.
So what do you see as the biggest challenge in the global energy sustainability, and how can we, address them?
Right. I think the biggest challenge is going to be, where's the money coming from? And one of the problems too is that people say, oh, it's going to cost this much money to do what you say you want to do. But you don't have to spend that all at once. That gets put across the next 30 years, and so we have to take that perspective into account as well. But where's the money going to come from? And I think that and I hate to say this, but I think government incentives help people make choices in the way that the government wants people to go. And so I think that's key. I also think that investors need to get on board here. There's money to be made. You know, you put in a solar power plant, and you make a little bit of money off every kilowatt hour that comes out of that plant. For the next 30 years and maybe 60 years, you replace the panels once and you've got 60 years out of it. So those kinds of things are, I think impact investing is another thing that needs to expand.
Correct.
And also the money, like I said in the talk, it's very hard for a startup company who's designed for the future to get money today because people don't see it.
Exactly.
And so impact investors need to loosen their purse strings to invest in new technologies and take those risks because, as we know, you know, there's so many, like 7 levers you have to pull in order to get a new technology off the ground. And not all those are in your control. You know, regulation and policy is one of those levers that, you know, is not in your control. So, yeah.
I would like to take a last question from my end again. I see a lot of research being done in the space. I see a lot of research done in the land, right? But I feel there is I don't know, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, a very limited amount of research time and money spent to explore beneath the ocean. I happen to read this, that there is a lot of things happening beneath the ocean, and this is quite alarming for the whole globe. So what's your point on exploring something beneath the ocean?
I'm not a big fan, actually. No, I'm not a big fan. You know, there are metallic nodules at the bottom of the ocean. Okay. And, you know, manganese and iron and, you know, etc., nickel, like in these nodules. And there's people who want to go and just vacuum that stuff up and turn it into metals to be used to build things with and see that as a cheap way to go. The thing about metals is they are infinitely recyclable. And before we do that, I'd like to see us mine our garbage dumps, our landfills for metals. And battery metals, same thing, you know, they're infinitely recyclable over and over and over again. And I would say, you know, once we mine our landfills for metals, and we have mines that are going in all the time, we're going to have enough metals and enough battery metals in the system when we start recycling them properly and reusing them, that we don't need to go sucking the nodules off the bottom of the ocean, because that's going to change the ecosystem down there in ways that we can't even imagine.
What a positive.
So I am not a fan. You know, the ocean is suffering enough. leave it alone.
No, I saw you. I saw the slide what you have mentioned, where you want to witness the coolest ocean with the no plastics in it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's something the need of the hour. Anyways,
yeah.
I have one of the student who says, "Amazing talk. Thank you, Miss Maggie, for this wonderful session."
All blessings.
Right?
Thank you for having me. And you know, anytime you want to talk about anything in this realm, I'm happy to
say this because
come back.
This is one topic or domain which less spoken about. All right. Yeah. And a lot of education institutes in India have very limited access to these reports and these awareness to the students. So I think I should really appreciate having people like you and sharing the topic, which is, I would say, need of the hour. And special mention definitely to all the enthusiastic students who were, it was a kind of eye opener and a lot of takeaways for them today. And that's the reason
How
they
many
came up
students do
with,
we have, Professor?
Sorry?
How many students, how many people attended this? I have no idea.
I would say closer to 100 plus.
200 plus. Awesome. Okay. This is happy making for me. This
Yeah,
is
and
awesome.
that's what actually made the difference is your topic. That
Yeah.
really makes the difference, because that topic is something vibrant, topic is something new, and topic is something dangerous that we are moving towards ahead. And I think it's really understood that, as a citizen, we are a lot of things to do, responsible, I would say, to get this back to the track. So I think the topic is what drives us today. And yes, on behalf of the GIBS Business School top management and all the students, I extend my heartfelt thanks to you for the wonderful session, Ms. Maggie.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to all the students who showed up for this. Having an impact is really important to me. So you're part of that. Thank you.
And now this session of yours made me very, very serious to invite you to our campus once to Bangalore. As I said, next time when you're in India, you're not traveling back without visiting us.
I promise.
You said
I keep my promises.
You said you're gonna knock my door. I'll be really excited to welcome you here. All right.
Yeah.
Great. Students,
this silver-haired person on your doorstep with a backpack. It'll be me.
Lovely. So I extend my heartfelt thanks to all the wonderful students out here who listened to this wonderful session, the faculties who were a part of it. And yes, don't forget to like our, all the social media pages. And a special request to all the participants also to, follow Ms. Maggie at all the social media pages. She has shared the link. With that, I'm sure you could find a lot of latest updates through her posts, I think, which is most important for us at this point of time. But otherwise, I think it's time to sign off right now. Once again, I extend my heartfelt thanks to you, Ms. Maggie. It was indeed a pleasure interacting with you. I wish to see you soon again, not only in the campus, but also some similar sessions in the days to come.
All blessings. Thank you.
Thank
all
you.
Blessings all.
All
Bye
right.
now.
Thank you, everyone. For those who missed, do not worry. The recorded session of this will be uploaded in the YouTube channel, and you can definitely go back again and have a look at this wonderful session. Thanks for watching. This is Guru Prasad signing off for the day. Thank you.